My wife threw me out after her best friend accused me of making a move on her. 5 months later, the friend confessed she was jealous. I handed over divorce papers, and she broke down. Never thought I'd be writing one of these, but here I am at my brother's place at 2 a.m., can't sleep, trying to piece together how my life fell apart in under 24 hours. I'm 34, work in cybersecurity, and until yesterday, I thought my marriage was solid. My wife Jo is 32, physical therapist. We've been together 9 years, married for 6.
9 years. You'd think after almost a decade he'd have gotten the benefit of the doubt, but
No kids yet. We were planning to start trying once her student loans were more manageable. Her best friend Madison has been around since day one. High school friends from Ohio, stayed close through college, and when Madison moved here 5 years ago, she basically became part of our furniture. I'm talking multiple dinners a week. Every Friday night was girls' night, constant texting. At first I didn't mind. Madison had just gotten divorced. Her ex cheated, and the whole thing destroyed her. So I figured Jo being there for her was the right thing to do. I even helped her move apartments last year. Looking back, there were signs. Madison would get this look when Jo kissed me goodbye. Hard to describe, but definitely not happy for us. Little comments here and there like, must be nice having someone who actually shows up. Or, you're so lucky, Jo. Some of us aren't that fortunate. I chalked it up to divorce bitterness. About 6 months ago, we all went to dinner. Jo hit the bathroom and Madison asked if I ever got tired of playing the perfect husband. I laughed it off. She stared at me a bit too long and said Jo talks about me constantly, and it's honestly exhausting. Again, I figured single and bitter. Then yesterday, everything exploded. Normal Tuesday, got home around 6. Jo was already there making dinner. She seemed off, but I figured long day at work. We ate in silence, which was weird. And then while I'm loading the dishwasher, she says Madison told her what I did. I had no clue what she was talking about. She gave me this look I'd never seen before, just pure disgust, and told me Madison came to her office that afternoon crying. According to Madison, I'd made a move on her 2 weeks ago when Jo worked late. Madison claimed I texted asking if she wanted to come over and watch a movie since I was bored. Said she came over thinking we were just friends hanging out. Then halfway through the movie, I supposedly put my hand on her leg and told her I'd always found her attractive. Madison said she froze, pushed my hand away, left immediately. She didn't want to say anything because she didn't want to ruin our marriage, but I'd apparently texted her again yesterday asking to talk about what happened, and she couldn't keep quiet anymore. My stomach dropped. None of that happened. I told Jo that Madison was lying, that I never texted her, never invited her over, nothing. I pulled out my phone to show her message history, and it was basically empty. A few group texts, maybe 3 individual messages over the past year, all boring stuff like telling Jo I'm running late. Jo wouldn't even look at my phone. She said Madison showed her screenshots of texts I supposedly sent from a different number. I asked to see them. She said Madison was too upset to send them, but she saw them herself. I pointed out that made 0 sense. Why would I have a different number? But Jo said I work in cybersecurity, so I could easily fake a number or use some app. I tried everything. Told her I was home that night playing games online with my buddy Liam. I could prove it through Discord logs and game history. She said I could have done it after gaming. I said fine. Check the Ring doorbell. It'll show nobody came over. She said I probably deleted the footage. Every explanation I gave, she had a counter ready. It felt like she'd already decided I was guilty and nothing would change her mind.
so much for his constitutional right to due process.
I asked why Madison would lie about something like this, and Jo just screamed that Madison's her best friend and has nothing to gain from lying. Then she started crying, saying she defended me at first, but Madison showed her the texts. Then she called Madison right there on speaker. Madison was sobbing, saying she was so sorry. She never wanted this to happen. She just couldn't live with the guilt. I tried to speak, and Madison said something like, "Please, just admit what you did. Don't make this harder on Jo." I said she was lying, and she started crying harder, saying she knew I'd deny it and try to make her look crazy.
Trust not a woman when she cries, for it is her nature to cry when she wants to get her way, to paraphrase Socrates.
Jo hung up and told me to pack a bag and leave. I said no, this is my house too. I'm not leaving over lies. She said if I didn't go, she'd call the cops and say I was making her feel unsafe. That threat broke something in me. I grabbed some clothes, my laptop, toothbrush, and left. Sat in my car for maybe 20 minutes, just staring at nothing. Then drove to my brother's apartment.
No, we're not just going to rush past that. Gentlemen, if there's a woman in your life who threatens the power of the state against you, who threatens men with guns, who could take your freedom away or take your life away. Because she's not getting her way, that is your cue that she means nothing to you from that day forward.
My brother Ethan opened the door, saw my face, and pulled me inside without asking questions. I told him what happened. He was pissed. He's met Madison at holidays and family stuff, never liked her. Always said she gave him weird vibes, that she was too attached to Joe. I thought he was being paranoid, but maybe he saw something I missed. Ethan said I needed to get a lawyer immediately, that false accusations like this could destroy my life. I couldn't sleep that night. Kept replaying every interaction with Madison, trying to figure out if I'd done something that could be twisted. Came up with nothing. Next morning I called Joe. Straight to voicemail. Texted her. Nothing. Sent a long email explaining everything, begging her to look at the evidence.
Don't you ever, in your fucking life, beg a woman for anything. She will purposefully mischaracterize that as weakness.
Silence. I even called her mom thinking maybe she could talk sense into Joe, but her mom was ice cold. Said Joe told her what happened, and she was disappointed in me. I tried to explain, and she cut me off saying Joe wouldn't lie and Madison has no reason to make things up. Everyone had already decided I was guilty. That night at Ethan's place I made a decision. If Joe wasn't going to believe me, if she was going to take Madison's word without even considering the possibility of lies, then maybe this marriage wasn't what I thought it was. First week was rough. Ethan had to work during the day, so I'd just sit on his couch scrolling through my phone, looking at old photos of me and Joe. Kept thinking she'd come to her senses, realized Madison's story had holes, call and apologize. Phone stayed silent. I texted her every day for the first 5 days, simple stuff asking if we could talk, saying I missed her. Every message ignored. Day 6 I drove past our house and saw Madison's car in the driveway at 11 a.m. on a Thursday. She'd basically moved in. That's when I realized this wasn't blowing over. Madison was there every day, in my house, probably reinforcing her lies constantly. Joe wasn't getting any space to think. Ethan sat me down on day 7 and said I needed to stop torturing myself. Said I can't keep driving by the house, can't keep texting into the void. I needed to protect myself. He gave me his friend's number, divorce attorney. I stared at that contact for 2 hours before calling. Attorney's name was Richard, maybe mid-50s, handled hundreds of divorces. Met at his office the next morning. Showed him everything, the basically empty text history with Madison, my Discord gaming logs from that night. She claimed I invited her over, my Ring doorbell account showing no activity. Richard listened, and then said something that stuck with me. He said even if we prove Madison lied, even if Joe eventually realizes the truth, I need to ask myself if I can ever trust my wife again after this. That hit hard because he was right. Joe didn't just believe Madison. She refused to even consider my side. Kicked me out, blocked me, turned her family against me. Richard said we should file immediately. Explained that in our state, there's a mandatory 60-day waiting period after filing before anything can be finalized. Longer if there's disputes over assets or if one-party contests. He said we should get ahead of it, file the paperwork, and if by some miracle Joe came around before it was done, we could dismiss the petition. But at least I'd be protected. I signed the initial paperwork that day. Felt surreal, like watching someone else's life implode. Richard said Joe would be served within a week. Left his office and just walked around downtown for hours. Ended up at this park by the river where Joe and I had our first date 9 years ago. We got ice cream and talked for 5 hours straight. I remember thinking that night that I'd probably marry her someday. Now here I was signing divorce papers because she believed lies over me. Called my best friend Liam that night. He's the one I was gaming with the night Madison claimed I made a move on her. Told him everything and he was shocked. Offered to call Joe and confirm I was online with him that whole evening. I said don't bother. She wouldn't believe him either. Liam mentioned that Madison always seemed off to him. Remembered this Christmas party 2 years ago when she got drunk and was weirdly touchy with Joe all night. I remembered that too. We all laughed it off at the time. Week 2 I started functioning again. Couldn't stay at Ethan's forever, so I looked for apartments. Found a decent 1-bedroom about 20 minutes from work, signed a 6-month lease. Ethan helped me move my stuff in, which wasn't much since most of my things were still at the house. Bought cheap furniture, tried to make it feel like home. It didn't. Place felt empty and depressing. I threw myself into work. Boss noticed I was off, but didn't ask questions. Started staying late, taking on extra projects, anything to avoid going home to that empty apartment. Also started hitting the gym every morning before work. Ethan suggested it, said it helped him through his breakup a few years back. I hadn't worked out regularly since college, but I needed somewhere to put all this anger. Actually helped. Something about lifting heavy weights makes everything else feel manageable for a bit.
Damn right. There's something ancient, powerful, primal even, about picking up heavy shit and putting it back down. Getting in charge of your health is an amazing step one for getting you back on track. Good for him.
Week 3, still no word from Joe. The divorce papers had been served. Richard called saying Joe got them and apparently freaked out. Her mom called his office screaming about how I was abandoning my wife when she needed me. How dare I file for divorce? Richard calmly explained that her daughter kicked me out over false accusations and refused all contact. Her mom hung up on him. Part of me hoped getting served would wake Joe up, make her realize I was serious. Still nothing. Then something interesting happened. One of our mutual friends, a girl named Casey who works with Joe at the clinic, reached out to me on Instagram. Said she didn't know what happened, but she didn't believe I'd do what Madison was claiming. I asked why, and she said Madison's been acting really weird lately, practically living at Joe's place, gets defensive when anyone asks about me, and honestly parts of her story don't add up. Said a few other people at the clinic were questioning Madison's version too, but nobody wanted to say anything to Joe because she was so fragile. That conversation gave me a tiny bit of hope that maybe truth would come out eventually. But it didn't change my situation. I was still alone in a depressing apartment. Wife still hated me. Madison still playing victim. Week 4, Ethan insisted I go on a date. Set me up with one of his girlfriend's friends, girl named Ashley. She was nice, worked in marketing. We got drinks downtown. I tried to be present, but my heart wasn't in it. Halfway through she said I'm not over my ex, am I? I apologized, said I was going through a divorce and probably shouldn't be dating. She was cool about it, wished me luck. Went home feeling even more alone. By week 8, I was starting to accept this was my new reality. Joe wasn't coming back. Divorce was moving forward. Started making plans for what my future might look like. Maybe move cities, start fresh. Focus on career, go for that senior position opening up. Travel, something Joe and I always talked about, but never did. Then week 10 happened, and everything changed. Joe's mom called me. Joe's mom calling was the last thing I expected. Almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Her voice was shaking. Said she needed to tell me something and owed me an apology. Turns out Madison got drunk at her house 3 days earlier. Joe wasn't there, working late shift. Madison started crying about how hard everything had been, how guilty she felt. Joe's mom thought she meant guilty about coming forward with the accusation. Then Madison said something that made her pause. Something about how she just loved Joe so much and couldn't watch me have her anymore. Joe's mom asked what that meant, and Madison broke down completely. Confessed she'd made everything up. Said she'd been in love with Joe since high school.
Hey, yo, what the fuck? Hey, boy, ain't no fucking way, boy. Boy, ain't no way, boy. Boy, ain't no way, boy.
Man, with friends like that, who the hell needs enemies?
Watching us be happy was torture. Thought if she could break us up, maybe Joe would finally see her differently. Joe's mom was horrified. Confronted her right there, and Madison admitted everything. The fake screenshots, the lies, all of it. Used some app to create fake text conversations that looked like they came from my number. Joe's mom apologized over and over on that call. Said she should have trusted me, should have asked more questions. I thanked her for telling me, but honestly felt numb. Yeah, I was vindicated, but damage was done. Told her she needed to tell Joe immediately. She said she'd been trying, but Joe wouldn't listen. Thought her mom was just defending me out of guilt. Hung up and sat there staring at the wall. Part of me wanted to feel victorious, but mostly just felt empty. 2 hours later, my phone started blowing up with texts from Joe. Dozens of them. Didn't read them. Turned phone off and went to bed. Next morning had 17 missed calls from Joe and maybe 30 texts. Finally read them. All variations of begging me to call, saying she was sorry, we needed to talk. Didn't respond. Richard called that afternoon, saying Joe's lawyer reached out asking if I'd be willing to meet to discuss reconciliation. Told Richard to set up a meeting, but make it clear it was only to finalize divorce details, nothing else. He said he'd handle it. Meeting was scheduled for Friday afternoon at our house. Joe wanted to meet there, probably thought being home would make me emotional. I agreed, but said Richard was coming with me. Friday came, and I drove to the house for first time in almost 3 months. Joe's car was in the driveway. So was Madison's. My stomach dropped. Called Richard, told him Madison was there. He said wait, he'd handle it. We walked in together. Joe was on the couch crying. Madison was standing behind her with a hand on Joe's shoulder. The audacity. Richard immediately said Madison needed to leave or we were walking out. Joe looked confused, said Madison was there to apologize too. I almost laughed. Madison started to say something, but Richard cut her off, said her presence was inappropriate, and I had no interest in anything she had to say. Madison's face went red. She looked at Joe expecting backup, but Joe just sat there. Madison grabbed her purse and headed for the door, but as she passed me, she said under her breath that I'd ruined everything. That's when I saw it click for Joe. Her face went from confusion to shock to disgust in real time. She stood up and asked Madison what that meant. Madison froze, turned around, and you could see her trying to figure out how to backtrack. Too late. Joe walked over and said her mom told her what Madison said about being in love with her, that she didn't want to believe it, but the way Madison just looked at me made it obvious. Madison started crying, tried to grab Joe's hands, said she did this for them, that I was keeping Joe from seeing what they could have together. Joe stepped back like she'd been hit, told Madison to get out. Madison refused, started rambling about how she'd loved Joe since they were 16, waited all this time, destroyed her own marriage because she couldn't stop thinking about Joe. Then Joe married me, and she had to watch us together every single day. Joe was shaking, screamed at Madison to get out. Madison tried to hug her. Joe shoved her away, and Madison stumbled backward into the coffee table. She got up, mascara everywhere, looked at both of us with pure hatred before finally leaving. Door slammed. House went silent. Joe collapsed onto the couch sobbing, looked at me, and kept saying she was so sorry. I didn't move, just stood there looking at this woman who was technically still my wife, but felt like a complete stranger. Richard pulled the divorce papers from his briefcase and set them on the coffee table. Joe saw them and started crying harder. Begged me not to do this, said we could fix it. She'd do anything. I finally spoke. Told her she threw me out of my own home, believed someone else over me without real evidence, turned her family against me. Wouldn't listen when I begged her to hear my side. She kept saying sorry, that she made a terrible mistake, that Madison manipulated her.
Newsflash, douchebag!
I looked at Richard, and he nodded. Turned back to Joe and said I hope she finds someone she'll actually trust, because it wasn't me and never would be again. Signed the papers right there on our coffee table. Joe was begging me to stop, saying we could go to therapy. She'd make it up to me. I stood up and walked toward the door. She grabbed my arm, and I gently pulled away. Said goodbye and left. Could hear her calling after me as I got in the car. Richard followed in his car, drove to his office, and finalized everything we could that day. That was 3 months ago. Divorce was finalized 2 weeks ago. I'm actually seeing Ashley now, the girl Ethan set me up with. We reconnected about a month ago, and things are good. She knows everything, doesn't judge. I moved into a bigger place, got that promotion at work, started traveling. Joe tried contacting me a few more times, but I blocked her everywhere. Ethan mentioned she's in therapy, now trying to process everything. Madison apparently moved back to Ohio. I don't feel bad for either of them. I'm actually happy now, happier than I was in that marriage if I'm being honest. Sometimes the worst thing that happens turns out to be the best thing. This was mine.
Wow. Our brother's story gave a lot of life lessons for those who pay attention. Number 1, single women love to keep other women single. Number 2, a woman will gladly lie to anybody and everybody who will listen if it means her getting what she wants. Number 3, a woman has no problem throwing a man under the bus, especially if that man is innocent of all charges. Number 4, if a woman ever threatens to call the cops on you, that woman is immediately useless to you for the rest of your life. No exaggerations, no negotiations. That relationship between you and whoever that woman is, family, friend, coworker, romantic partner, baby mama, whoever, if she invokes the power of the state to harm you in any way, that relationship, whatever you think it was, whatever you believe you've built together, is dead and over with. You better operate that way. Never speak to that woman again. Any woman who would threaten proxy violence from other men against you is someone who doesn't give a fuck about you and could gladly and happily see you dispatched and turned into human Swiss cheese. Never forget that. I'll wrap it up with this, guys. Our brother made a lot of mistakes. He played his case. When the onus of proof is never on the accused, but on the prosecutorial process. The one making the accusations has to provide the proof. Beyond a reasonable doubt, by the way, in case anybody's unclear. So no, he had no business trying to plead his case to someone after he already said it once, in a language he speaks, writes, reads, and comprehends fully. But he saw it through to the end. And I pray good things for him because he didn't deserve what he got. Man, That's all I got for today, fellas. That's my time. Like the video? Comment down below. Share this video with a friend. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you got any left, hype the video. Never let your brother suffer in silence when the truth can set him free. Networkers, we working. Until next time.